Welcome back, brothers, tourists, and ladies, to another edition of the Chapter House, the Old Glory Club's look into the men and chapters that make up the Old Glory Club. Joining us tonight are the regulators of the Rio Grande out of the great state of New Mexico, right there on the front line. If you've seen Sicario, which, dear listener, I hope you have, you should know that quite a bit of it takes place in New Mexico. Joining us from the regulators of the Rio Grande is Thomas Wayne Riley. How are you, sir?
Very good. How are you doing, sir?
I'm doing wonderfully, thank you. Joining him as well is Kyle.
Y'all.
Howdy. And Alex. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having us.
Awesome. I've never been to New Mexico. I hear that it's very dry, but it's also the front lines against the southern hordes. At least part of it is. What's it like down there right now?
Well, first of all, we have to remedy you never being here. So
I agree.
Make some plans. You got a place to stay at my house.
Well, thank you, sir.
Being on the front lines, I think the state just passed some legislation saying they're going to ban ICE facilities in any state help in like giving any local law enforcement help to ICE.
Yeah, guaranteed to make it hot.
Yeah.
Nice. Wait, you said that they are banning local law enforcement from helping ICE?
I'm pretty sure that is part of it. I know for a fact part of it is they are banning any usage of any ICE facilities. They're not allowing ICE to purchase or rent any buildings to house people they're going to round up. And I'm pretty sure part of that was, now I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure part of that was local law enforcement cannot help ICE. And that hasn't been passed yet, but it just passed the first step. And I'm pretty sure in the next couple of days, it'll no doubt pass the second step.
I doubt there'll be much opposition.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I was about to ask, do you guys think that it'll make it through the governor? I don't know anything about New Mexico politics.
Oh, absolutely.
So the governor put a 10-day waiting period on purchase of firearms. You purchase the firearm, you go, you fill out the paperwork, and then you got a 10-day waiting period. That was struck down by a court. She has yet to sign it out of law. So it's still on the books, even though a court struck it down as unconstitutional. Like, imagine if other politicians ignored the court.
They had the balls of Lou on.
Imagine. Yes, indeed. I mean, this is actually quite extraordinary, although it's not the only, instance of something like this happening. I am, before Trump 2.0, there was a lot of discussion in our spheres about the defederalization of the United States, wherein we expected a lot of states just to tell the federal government that, they're not doing what the federal government's telling them. What I wasn't quite expecting is complete lawlessness, whereby states ignore their own judiciary. That's an accelerated timeline I wasn't looking at. Is this something that's kind of indicative of the way the state's going?
The state has been corrupt since the end of the Civil War. There's something called the Santa Fe Ring, and they essentially consolidated lands, money, and power. The Republican Party did after the Civil War, and it didn't end until the 1912 or 1920s, depending on who you talk to. You can talk to some people, and they say the Santa Fe Ring still exists. And I'm guessing that is the truth on current affairs.
Yeah, it's also kind of strange because Grisham, our current governor, she's also like one of the first governors in like 50 years is actually from New Mexico. She kind of has her own political ambitions, but you got to it's easy to forget Governor Bill Richardson, a Massachusetts, was essentially rewarded the governorship of New Mexico because he was, born. His father was born in Mexico, or and it's like, oh yeah, you're Mexican. Why not become governor of New Mexico and just make sure you help out my buddy Jeff with his ranching goals.
Amazing. I actually wanted to have you guys expand a little bit on the Santa Fe Ring, if you don't mind, because that sounds like an interesting bit of New Mexico history.
Well, the Santa Fe Ring ties very well into our name, Regulators of the Rio Grande. After the Civil War, so I would say 99% of the country do not know that the Confederacy invaded New Mexico, and Santa Fe was the only Yankee-held capital that the Rebs took in the entire war. And after the war, during the war, the Rebs were kicked out. And then the Santa Fe Ring was a bunch of Republican, mostly ex-soldier group of politicians who took over the entirety of the Santa Fe or New Mexican government. And actually, let me put my Putin hat on here for a second and go back, like 500 years. So the Spanish crown allotted all of these land grants to Spanish citizens and criollos who were Spanish citizens that were born in New Spain or New Mexico. And so they were granted these large tracts of land. After the Mexican-American War, we obviously now owned New Mexico. It was a territory up until 1912?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was a territory up until that point. But after the Civil War, the Republican-led, mostly veteran government started using every means that they could to consolidate this land, to sell it off. And they stole a lot of it. They killed a lot of people. And part of that was the Lincoln County War. And the Lincoln County War was the Santa Fe Ring, a part of them known as the Lincoln County House, pretty much stationed in Lincoln, the town, north of Ruidoso, below the Capitan Mountains. And that's where Billy the Kid's story takes place. And Billy the Kid was just a kind of essentially an orphaned boy who kind of got mixed up with the wrong crowd. But then he found himself in the right crowd. And the right crowd were the Regulators. And Clausington did a great mini historical book on the Regulators way out in the east, mostly in Pennsylvania, the Whiskey Rebellion, all that kind of stuff. And there were some novels coming out at the time in the 1870s, even the 1850s, about regulators on the prairies, the banditti of the prairie and the Regulators that fought them. And especially in 1870, there was a Regulator book that Billy the Kid read, and he was never the leader of the Regulators, but Billy the Kid was a part of them, and they were the good guys. Until he wasn't. Eventually, he wasn't a good guy. But so he read a book that talked about the Regulators, and so he told his band of men fighting against the Santa Fe Ring and their Lincoln County house, he said we should call ourselves the Regulators. And so that is where Billy the Kid's story comes from, and that's where our name comes from. Although Billy the Kid was never on the Rio Grande, but
He was close enough.
he was close. We're on the Rio Grande mostly here in Albuquerque.
I mean, that's a really cool backstory. What about the story inspired you to take the name?
Well, it's got to be the way that they just took a stand.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's essentially what we're doing here. So,
Yeah, based, and that's a really good summation of the club in general. Not allowing America to slip out without some kind of fight, right? So you said you guys are mostly located in Albuquerque. Now, I mean, for our one European listener, you must understand that each of the states in the United States is about the size of one of your countries once you get outside of New England. And New Mexico is quite large. Albuquerque is about central, maybe northwest central. How outside of Albuquerque and like the larger cities out there, is it a desolate land, or is it very highly populated?
If you're coming from the East Coast, it's going to feel very, very desolate. There's a lot of desert. Albuquerque is completely surrounded on almost all four sides by Indian reservations. So the development of Albuquerque is restricted to, within its borders. It's not going to sprawl out like, let's say, Phoenix or any of those. It has a very clear stopping point. You can see it in the geography that the houses go up to a point and then it's just desolate tumbleweeds. So I'd say it's about an hour between, any other big city around us. Like it's an hour to Santa Fe, it's an hour to Socorro to the south. And when you're in those stretches in between, it is, vast prairie land. There isn't a whole lot there.
Mostly Puebloans or mountain ranges or canyons
And it's very much defined by the interstate because Albuquerque exists on the I-25 and I-40 intersection. So like there's tons of traffic going from both Arizona and going Denver to the north and Arizona to the west.
Yeah. Santa Fe is the historical capital. It's been populated
since the Spanish arrived in 1706.
Right, and
sorry,
and it still has like Spanish cathedrals and Spanish masses. That's not as super common in Albuquerque. There's a couple, but they still have like their like Spanish Catholic roots. They're more Europeanized Mexican Spanish roots existing in places like Santa Fe and Socorro even and Albuquerque in Old Town.
Yeah, Albuquerque really became got put on the map by Route 66 because that comes straight through Albuquerque, and that's what drew most of the relatives of the current residents.
But even Albuquerque and Route 66 have an interesting background. The Rebs, when the Confederates took Albuquerque, they didn't take it. They were welcomed in, and the richest citizens gave them pretty much everything they owned. And then during the retreat, they went with them. And Albuquerque slowly rebuilt, and then the Route 66 put it on the map. But in the last 20 years, Route 66, which is in Albuquerque called Central, is
you've probably seen it on Breaking Bad.
Yeah, it's down. It's LA's worst. It's really sad.
It used to be a beautiful place.
Deco and neon,
and they had theaters that were wonderful theaters connected to the university. And it's just not a safe place for anyone who's, under 160 pounds. No,
it's zombies.
It's zombies and
it's really bad.
Open air prostitutes and freaks and
drug market. Yeah.
And our governor had the great idea to have a free bus, which just became like a motel on wheels on Central. So they just, if it's too hot or too cold, they get in, pack like 30, one end to the other.
I mean, this seems like, we all know at this point that these destructive policies are absolutely intentional by the people who, claim to rule over us. But this is actually kind of surprising to me to hear. You guys have an Air Force base in Albuquerque, don't you?
Portland, yeah.
Yeah, and some of these places that we're talking about, the Air Force base is not far from Central at all. So
I was going to ask. And take them out. The gate guards, yeah.
Yeah, I was going to ask. Obviously, the military presence there doesn't seem to have an effect on the neighborhoods around there. But I'm curious if it has an effect on the Albuquerque city politics.
Absolutely, that's a major. The major income is obviously through the federal government. You got the Air Force, you have Sandia National Labs, you have Los Alamos National Labs, and then you have the reservations. So and the casinos that are attached to them. That's probably that's all directly subsidized by the government, by the federal government. So we have like a very little independence from like just Gibbs, essentially. Even though some are better than others, some are more reputable than others.
Yeah, I mean, Albuquerque has essentially turned into. Yeah, I lived in Oklahoma for 11 years, and I don't know if anyone's listening from Oklahoma that they know Fort Sill or Lawton, but to me, Albuquerque is kind of like a larger Lawton. It is just a. I mean, I do love Albuquerque. Well, I go there as little as possible. I live.
There are better places.
Yeah, I live about 25 minutes east on the other side of the Great Sandias. So I kind of try to avoid it, but I mean, I'm a officer at the Elks Lodge. I'm with these guys all the time. So I'm there pretty often, but to me, Albuquerque's kind of just become another port town.
Yeah, and the thing that I was thinking about with New Mexico is we have kind of like a weird relationship as like the difference between a territory and a state, you know, like an actual like historical American like state. Because like I said before, Lujan, all the governors were from out of places. A lot of them were just like receiving favors to get the governorship because it's so easy for them to do. All they just needed was more money than the other guys. And then the populations, like so many people came here, like within the last 100 years. They came here through the Manhattan Project. They came here as very like high intelligence, but then like people going to the national labs became extremely deracinated from wherever they came from, and insular. And then you have like this retiree population in places like Santa Fe and Taos and Ruidoso, which essentially are just like rich out of touch boomers that are white and or adjacents. Like we were walking with one of our club members in the
Sangre de Cristos.
Mm-hmm. In the just like 10 minutes outside of Santa Fe, and he and our guy was just telling us about this billionaire. Oh, you like Spirit
American.
Spirit American.
And he was
cigarettes?
like, the guy that lives on the top of this mountain, he can see 360 degree view of the entire state of New Mexico from the top of the Sangre de Cristos, just east of Santa Fe. He's like, he's a guy, you know, he's a little gay guy from Texas. You guys ever heard of American Spirits? He lives there. He's there like twice a year.
And then we have other people of similar interests, like the former Jeff, our friend Jeff, living in Zorro Ranch, who's who like had that area specifically redistricted by Mr. Richardson.
Our friend, he's not our friend, but Jeff got that Zorro Ranch about 30 minutes from my house to be close to Los Alamos.
Mm-hmm.
It's best to describe it as New Mexico is a state of extremes. You know, on the one hand, we have a very high population of PhDs and people working on the cutting edge of technology here. And then we have a group of folks who are, to put it bluntly, riding the bus up and down Central.
Mm-hmm.
And then you got the Indians. I mean, I'm not disparaging the Indians, but
they stick to themselves.
Yeah.
I think they kind of just endure on the reservations.
But it's a whole nother population that really decides kind of the fate of New Mexico politics nationally, which, you know, we've all kind of given up on that, even though I was retarded enough. I was stupid enough to try my hand at that, but
I think we're far enough in that the algo's not going to catch any gamer words, so
Okay,
it's fine.
Okay, Jeff is not our friend.
Jeff is not our friend.
All right.
That'd be Mr. Files over there.
Yeah, the PDF guy.
Yeah.
Well, so I wonder, you know, when I think Indian reservations, I mostly think in like Upper Utah and then through Wyoming, Idaho, and you know, Montana. I am I mean, obviously you've got like Navajo Nation is pretty big out there, but I didn't know there were so many other like small reservations carved out all over New Mexico. Do they have the same problem as all the ones in the Northwest, being that they can't handle their fire water?
So that is a good question. From my personal experience, I'd have to say yes.
So Kyle has told me some stories about somebody that he knows who worked for Department of Justice.
Oh, I'm trying to think about which story you're talking about.
All right, let's put the Putin hat back on real quick. New Mexico, when it was not a territory, but not a viceroy. Anyways, I guess let's just call it a state of New Spain. It was the furthest spot from Mexico City in New Spain. You had to cross the Tierra del Adentro, Royal Road. And a lot of that was through the Chihuahua Desert. And there were Apaches, mostly Apaches, and then Comanches. I mean, for hundreds of years, the DF or Mexico City only brought supplies to Santa Fe twice a year. And they had hundreds of troops, dragoons, bring these supply troops from Mexico City all the way up to Santa Fe. It was easier to get from Mexico City to California than it was to get from Mexico City to New Mexico. So New Mexico was up backwater when it was a part of New Spain. It was the furthest flung territory, and it was very dangerous and tough to get to. When America won our glorious war against Mexico and then purchased the land, it was yet again a far-flung territory that was tough to get through. I mean, railroads weren't built for way too long. And then when they were, then you had Anglo and Mexican bandits take it. So New Mexico's always kind of been a backwater, which it kind of still is, I think, in national politics. And I was told this very recently when I was trying to do something for the state. And then to get to the second part of the question, the Puebloans. There are, I don't remember, I should know because I've done a whole series over it, but there are at least 25 different Puebloan groups. They were in the Four Corners area, the famous ruins that everyone goes to. They were there. They had a civil war. The bad guys left, they went down to Mexico, and the ones that stayed went to the Rio Grande Valley, from Taos to Santa Fe to all the way down to south of Albuquerque. And they all are on the Rio Grande except for Taos and Pecos. And so there are all these nations, and because of the way that the Civil War went down 800 years ago, they speak 5 different main languages. And so some of them are unintelligible. And even when in 1807, when Zebulon Montgomery Pike was captured in Colorado and sent down to Chihuahua, he visited these pueblos. And even in 1807, after over almost 300 years or around there of Spanish rule in New Mexico, the Puebloans still did not speak Spanish. And so the Puebloans kind of stick to themselves. They really don't, I don't know, they don't really get too involved in politics, but
they have voting blocks.
They have voting blocks, and they're all Democrat, and they're heavily involved in drug trafficking. Okay, I take that back.
Use. I wouldn't say
I take that back.
trafficking.
And I won't say all. That was a blanket statement. I should not have said. Drug trafficking and human trafficking, unfortunately, relies upon the Puebloans. I hope no Puebloans are listening. In New Mexico, because they kind of have ties all the way down to the border. And
I mean, to be fair, if they are listening, I'm sure that they know this is true, and they're probably not happy about it. But that's very interesting, and I hope you don't mind this aside, but I'm reminded of George Bagby talking about Jackson's intention when setting up the reservation system, that they would maintain their own customs and language. And from what you're saying, it seems like even this 200 plus years later that this was successful.
Not with the maybe with the older Indians.
I don't.
Yeah,
maybe
I
with the
mean, I
older.
went to school with Navajo Nation people, and they if they went to an engineering program, they're top echelon intelligence wise. So, and they didn't know anybody who could speak any of the old languages. It was just like it was just the legal status thing. Gave them benefits, it gave them money.
Yeah, there are a lot of benefits. There's a lot of money and avenues into higher education for Puebloans or Native Americans in general. But I think there's also a very distinct choice that those individuals have to make when they choose to kind of take the avenue to go into the white society, white man's world. They're leaving a lot of that behind, and they're kind of shunned.
They're shedding their skin.
There's a great novel from the last mid-century called "The Man Who Killed the Deer," and it is this exact conundrum of being raised as a Puebloan, but the modern world is encroaching. You do one, you get harmed. You do the other, you get harmed. And there's no way to straddle the line. I think today it's a lot easier to straddle the line.
Yeah, I mean, my friend who went to school with me, I think, he ended up like kind of going back, and he's kind of unusual guy. He was like 6'4" Indian guy, so he so he kind of got into this like modeling scene in the and yeah, it's kind of like it's kind of a funny thing because you have to like for somebody who's proud of their nation, even in defeat, like you don't want to become like a what's the like a joke or a mockery of it, the whole thing by making itself. So I think he did like
parodic.
like a minstrel show of or like a Disney exhibit. So, but I think in the end he decided, it's like we're proud of our art. We know where things stand in the historical record. But we still lived, and I still have a responsibility to kind of like hold on, like to live for those who died and who were vanquished, and to illustrate that.
And the economy of New Mexico is actually, there's a huge chunk of it that's driven by Native American art, jewelry, that sort of stuff. Is sold to a lot of people at high price on the East Coast via Santa Fe, and there's a lot of high-end galleries. People come to Santa Fe to spend way too much on turquoise and silver.
Yep.
Yeah, sorry, I
fans.
Oh.
Sorry, go on. Yeah.
No, please.
No, not.
No, I
You're
don't need to do that. Smart.
Yeah, no, I was just going to tell a stupid anecdote. I'm from New England, as many people know, and one of my buddies has this silver ring. It's got a snake on it with turquoise, and we were in Massachusetts on Cape Cod at this flea market, and some boomer recognized it as some southwestern very famous woman who produces this turquoise jewelry, and he started creaming himself over it. And so I imagine that the tourists or the boomers down there are spending quite a bit of money on authentic Native American art and craft.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to talk about how much turquoise I own. But I'm not from New Mexico.
But is it authentic?
That's
the
authentic.
question.
They promised me it was authentic. So
And that brings up the question, what makes it authentic? But whatever.
I have no idea.
A lot of people that are from here that aren't of that culture think it's tacky, but that's just because you see it too often.
Mhm.
But it really just depends on the person, and the further you get away from it, the more the more I think prestigious it would be. But once you stop at a few gas stations and see the same things that you could get on the Santa Fe Square at a gas station in Gallup, then you're like, okay, I see what's going on.
Yeah, it's like, oh, they got that from the gas station. They moved the decimal point over 2 spaces.
Yeah. And you could get
Yeah,
fireworks with the jewelry at the gas station.
I mean, you say that, but like even in New England, like the age of mass shipping and the internet means that you find the exact same jewelry in the gas stations in snowy Massachusetts or Connecticut.
Well, I like to go to the house of the person who makes the jewelry and buy it from them personally. And I've never done it, but maybe that's the best way to go.
And that kind of brings it back to, it's a place of extremes. So it's very unique that you can do that. You can, if you know what you want, and you can have a custom piece made by a real artist, and you go talk to them in their home, get their story, get their feedback, and it becomes a personal item to you. That means a whole lot different than somebody who is maybe purchasing something for a name that they heard on the Great Line or saw in an Instagram post somewhere. So both extremes do exist, and it's interesting to see how much it means to people. When we travel outside of New Mexico, and we'll notice some piece of jewelry, start talking to that person about it, and get the story behind that piece of jewelry. It's interesting to see who's buying the gas station stuff and who actually went the distance to actually try and find something that means something.
And to a great extent, I think, and this has to the naming conventions of streets in Albuquerque and Santa Fe and Las Cruces, but there is a degree to which our relationship with the natives is honoring the vanquished, those who fought bravely, those who they were enemies until they were defeated, but they didn't die as cowards, and they left something behind that tries to do that, even though it's difficult, and that's the fear for us as patriots, as Americans, is becoming them.
Yeah, I mean, New England, a good deal of the states and the cities are named after the local Native American tribes that are long gone, and we don't have we don't have any reservations up here, but we've got the Pequot, which you see at the in the casino lands, and that's the only time you see them. And there's the Delawares are pretty much gone, the Algonquins, but it's very interesting that there's that bit of well, I'll say this before I make the point that I want you guys to talk about a little bit. We're at the time where we're worried about Americans becoming a conquered people. Unfortunately, I don't think that our conquerors have any interest in preserving and honoring us in the way that the Anglo and other Europeans would preserve and honor their vanquished foes. But what I was getting at is that up in the Northeast, there aren't many. You don't see many natives, and if you do, they're so admixed that you wouldn't know unless they told you. I imagine that it must be a very interesting and specific type of Americana where you can interact with these people who still have let's say 80+% of their DNA reaching back to the native populations.
Yeah, and there's particular groups out here that are really dedicated to sticking to themselves, like the Zuni probably would be a good example.
So when I first moved here, one of my first I have a show, whatever, it doesn't matter. One of my first paid subscribers, he invited me to a Pueblo dance. You know, like it was called the Buffalo Dance. It was at the Jemez Pueblo. It was like January 2nd or 3rd, and it was the wind chill was 0. There were over 100 Jemez Puebloans shirtless in buffalo heads and feathers and really ornate, fantastic costumes that did a dance from sunup to sundown. And my wife and I were invited in the central square of the Jemez Pueblo. We were invited into a house to eat dinner, and it was literally, you could barely move. I mean, the house was absolutely packed. And this Puebloan family, they were high up on the ladder, or they don't have ladders. Well, they do, but they were well off, and so they provided meals for like the entire Pueblo, and for the Anglos who had special allowance into the house, which my friend had, and he gave to us. So we got to eat in their home, and it was pretty incredible. That being said, I do have a history show, and I've talked and I've learned a lot, and I got my degree in archaeology, and I've learned a lot about the American Indians. And while I can respect them, and I'm glad they kept their culture, some aspects of their culture, I also know their history, and I am glad that we prevailed. I'll say that.
Yeah, I mean, of course, there's no denying that the light of civilization was brought to this dark continent, not by the people who already inhabited the place, but by the Europeans and the light of Christendom. This actually brings me to something that I was wondering personally. So two things. I guess I'll just take them one at a time. When I have in my mind this image of the deserts of the Southwest, I imagine that there are still some like old Spanish missions that you can, I don't know if you say stumble upon with satellite imagery, but that are not well visited out in the desert. Is that true in New Mexico?
I can't speak for out in the desert, but my wife and I were living in somewhere else, and we visited here, and we were traveling in the Sangre de Cristos, and we were going from Santa Fe up to, it doesn't matter, we were going somewhere else, and we stumbled upon the oldest church in that area, and I wish Las Chunchas.
Yeah.
And it was absolutely incredibly beautiful. I even used it on a couple or on a cover of my episode. But I did not know that this church was going to be here, and we just drove by it, and it was so clearly old and beautiful that we had to stop and look. But there were some of the largest churches built in the New World in New Mexico, built with tons of money and labor, some coarse labor, but a lot of Puebloans were already converted, and they were burnt down in 1680 during the Pueblo Revolt. So a lot of the great ornate churches that existed here in New Mexico were burned in 1680 after the reconquest of New Mexico, because the Spaniards also reconquered New Mexico, not just Spain. But after the reconquest, they just built them a lot smaller. But yeah.
But they're still like the cathedrals are still centers of New Mexico culture in all the Spanish named cities.
And a lot of times they're still operational, places of worship too.
Yeah, I went to a Spanish mass in Santa Fe for a wedding, and it was, and that is all for a person that a friend of mine whose family's connected, like the Knights of Columbus, still alive in Santa Fe, and that is another like pull for like the like I guess heritage Hispanic population is they have to choose Cortez or Montezuma or whatever, they have to choose where they center themselves, and a lot of them are choosing Spain a lot of them want to think of themselves as heritage of the conquest, and that's how they and they don't care or don't think too much about the fact that like Thomas said earlier about how difficult it was to get from Mexico City to New Mexico. Like, they would have had to be bred with the natives here. They would have to have their culture and their genetics. But sometimes you choose something that's more important, and obviously the son is much more important. The relationship with Christ.
Of course. I do have another question, and this is another personal one. So I'm a big fan of extreme weather camping. I love camping in the mountains and in cold weather. And years ago, I was camping very deep in the Appalachians with a friend of mine and his then girlfriend. And after, we were there for about 2 weeks, and we come back out, and she says, very enthusiastically, "Hey guys, we should go camp in the desert." And both my buddy and I were very adamant that is something that neither of us feel prepared to do, because the desert is a biome that we've never experienced, and also the desert is very spooky. Do you guys get out into the desert? I mean, you're surrounded by it. I imagine it's pretty banal for you guys, but I have this kind of romanticized idea, especially after frying my brain, as so many right-wingers do, on Cormac McCarthy, that the desert has this sort of spooky mystique to it.
Oh, definitely. And I think if you're living in New Mexico, or if you've decided to set down roots here, it's because you probably have a love of the outdoors. There isn't, it's not Vegas. There's not big shows. There's not that kind of draw, but it is absolutely stunningly beautiful in the Four Corners area, and in New Mexico especially. A lot of people don't realize Albuquerque sits at, parts of Albuquerque sit at a mile high. And they always give that to mystique to Denver, but Santa Fe itself is actually above 7,000 feet. So weather changes quickly and dramatically here. You can start your day off with a jacket on, and it can be in the single digits, and then by the time the sun's setting, it's close to 50, 60 degrees. There's huge swings. So if you are coming out here, which you definitely should, come join us. We'll take you out camping, but bring your shorts, bring your flip-flops, and also bring a parka.
Layers you can shed.
Yep. So I am not from, this is Thomas, I ain't from New Mexico. I'm from Georgia, but I lived in Oklahoma for 11 years, in Wisconsin, and even Southern California. I moved here over 2 years ago. But in 2011, when I was living in Oklahoma, I visited New Mexico for the first time. I visited every year after that with, it was at first for like a weekend, and then a couple days. And then by the time I moved here, it was for 2 weeks at a time. There is everything here. There's lava tubes like Hawaii, which I've been to. There's ice caves. There is, Kyle actually got me hooked on fly fishing. And so last year I went 11 times before the Pecos River froze over fly fishing. I brought Alex out. One of the things that our group has done is we went camping. When was that? October? November?
Yeah,
October.
Yeah, another leader.
Yeah, and it was beautiful and like warm, and then it was cold. And they watched me fly fish. You guys got to get your fly fish.
Yeah. But it's like ruled by the sun. Like the humidity is like generally low here. So like in that morning in the Pecos, like it was so cold. I was like I was just looking for the sun to come over the valley, and I was like hiking just to get like to warm up with the sun's rays. But like that's not the kind of thing you have to deal with when you have like real humidity that has like can hold heat in the water molecules and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
So that's just that's the desert experience, is just being ruled by the where the sun is pointed.
And we also have some kind of extreme athletes, people who regularly are on expeditions to Everest. They call Taos their home, and they do their high altitude training there, and then go in the Himalayas and are doing really extreme alpine climbing.
I mean, that's amazing. You're really selling me on New Mexico here. But we've got about 15 minutes left, and I wanted to ask a little bit more about the chapter itself. Now, are you guys you're centralized in Albuquerque? What's the furthest distance that a member travels to get to Albuquerque?
4 hours in Carlsbad, New Mexico.
All right.
So you've got very intelligent young gentleman. I really look forward to his trajectory, but yeah, he's 4 hours away.
Now that's dedication, and like that's a good thing to see. But I wonder. So I mentioned this towards the beginning of the episode, but New Mexico is the size of basically a country anywhere else in the world, and is there a potential in the future that Albuquerque, New Mexico Old Glory Club chapters might be carved up by geography, or is the population density just too low?
It just depends on what people in that area
are
available, because it'd be great to have two.
There could be a Las Cruces in Carlsbad chapter with the Deming included, which is almost to Arizona, down on I-10. There will never be a Santa Fe Taos, because they're populated by old people who are all they're blue, except one of our strongest members is up there. He's also quite possibly one of the oldest members of the Old Glory Club.
Yeah, and he knows how to speak in code.
Yeah, he is incredible. Pray for him though. But
to kind of put it in perspective, so Albuquerque's population is around 500,000, and it doesn't really fluctuate that much. It's kind of been flatlined for decades.
2025, New Mexico lost population.
Well, I mean, I could see that being a boon, because at least if New Mexico lost population, it means you're not getting absolutely crammed full of the Jeet menace.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, me too.
Yeah, I mean, we still have our gas station issues.
Mm-hmm.
The other thing, a lot of our natural members are like adjacent to the military, and so even though the population stays the same, it's a lot of like different people. Like they're getting stationed on Kirtland, but then they're somewhere at a different base, 6 months later. Or
another one of our strongest members won't be here this time next year, I don't think. Well, he might be, but because he's stationed at Kirtland, so it's a bummer. We need the gentlemen of New Mexico who hear this to not just sit in the chair and get up and contact us.
Mm-hmm. And
ringing endorsement from us here at Central as well. Join the regulators of the Rio Grande.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much.
So, I mean, what you just mentioned, Santa Fe being, jam-packed, filled with old people. It seems like there might be an opportunity there for our guys to sweep in and gobble up all that land as it becomes available as the boomers die off, assuming that BlackRock doesn't sweep in before.
The only thing stopping it is the price of housing up there.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
No, it's a good place to go and meet some childless people that, that'll just become unclaimed property when they die in Santa Fe.
It sounds like a great opportunity to take Stormy Waters route, where you befriend childless boomers and have them leave you everything.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Well, when I first moved here, I joined the Elks Lodge. That was the first thing I did. It was here in Albuquerque, but I was immediately invited to join the Masonic Lodge in Santa Fe, but I listened to too much TLE, so I couldn't do that. But I mean, there are organizations and people here in this state that need actually they don't need, they must have young people.
Yeah, or Knights of Columbus in Santa Fe. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, they need young people, and so we're trying to fill that. These two gentlemen I forced to join the Elks Lodge, and so I'm trying to get all my guys to.
Infrastructure, man, infrastructure.
Yeah, just to get embedded.
They own their own properties. And, Yep. So
maybe I should join the Masonic Lodge up in Santa Fe.
No.
I'm not going to sacrifice it.
Careful. We've got a member on Central who's a Mason, and we always give him the side eye whenever he does anything with his hands. So
make sure you figure how to do the oath without meaning it.
I know.
That's like a Bill Cooper thing. There's ways to swear loyalty to Satan without giving your soul away.
All right, Bird. Yeah.
I'm not going to take the risk myself, but
no.
Yeah, no, I mean, get ready with God and then try those things.
Yeah. But I recently did a silly thing and ran for Congress in New Mexico. Well, actually federal Congress, and then the party convinced me that there are too many running and maybe there's nobody running for Senate, so maybe you should do that. So I did, and they said, we'll get you on the ballot, and then crickets. And I got a call a couple of days ago, hey, thank you for doing that. Would you want to run for county commissioner? And so, I mean, besides feeling kind of like a whore, maybe I will do that.
I mean, actually, that's interesting. Obviously, the Old Glory Club isn't a
no, not at all.
Political organization, so I wasn't aware of that. But are you going to stick with? I mean, if you're the only person running on the Republican ticket, are you going to continue that, or are you going to take the shuffling down?
So they said I would get you on. So the ballot had to be on the ballot yesterday. I would have had to pay thousands of dollars out of my own pocket to get on the Senate ballot, and I just wasn't willing to do that. Also, I don't, it doesn't matter. But the county commissioner might be a little more attainable, and there are ways to, as county commissioner, I could have, say, a group of gentlemen that I know that have an actual non-political organization. They can offer me a plan or something that they want to do in the county, and as county commissioner, I can give them funds to accomplish that goal. So maybe that's something that would be beneficial.
Well, it's a very interesting avenue. I wish you luck in an unofficial capacity. But I just had a couple more questions real quick before we wrap up. You said that you have the oldest member in the Old Glory Club. Do you have a boomer?
His father was born in 1912, so he is he's of an age, or actually 1909.
I think it was 1909.
Yeah.
So is he the oldest in the OGC?
I don't know.
Or
I
just
don't know.
our chapter?
I just assumed our chapter. I kind of thought it'd be funny if he was the oldest in the entire OGC, but he has been around the block and he knows everything that we knew before we were born.
Yeah.
If he's not the oldest, he's definitely in the running.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I mean, that's pretty based. I mean, I don't want to focus too much on this one guy, but how did you find
Well,
him?
you can meet him another time.
He's fascinating.
He
That'll be
is.
a whole other
Yeah.
episode.
Yeah, he's awesome.
Oh, I mean, that's awesome, guys. I love that. But besides that, what's the demographic of the Regulators?
19 to 70s.
Yeah, whatever.
70, 76, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's easily the biggest range out of any chapter I've spoken to. That's awesome. I love that. I hope that you guys are getting the time in for mentorship.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely. And we, for some strange reason, we have a strong attraction to Toms. Like Toms and Thomases love joining our chapter.
Yeah.
Goes back to Saint Thomas Aquinas.
Yep,
Yeah.
Thomas Aquinas.
Yeah, I heard he personally founded the town of Truth or Consequences. So
I think they voted on that in like the 90s or something, or 70s. Yeah. Just went
I
there.
mean, that's
recently.
just
Very cool.
that's
Yeah.
a wild name for a town.
little secrets. Truth or Consequences is like the most infamous speed trap in New Mexico on I-25.
Oh.
So yeah, just make sure that you're going the speed limit when you get near there, and then
Mm-hmm.
go back to normal.
Yeah, I mean that's kind of fitting. I love it. We're gonna hop on over real quick to the super chats. I'm sorry, guys. You were too interesting tonight, so I think everyone just forgot to send in the super chats. Except we do have the greatest woman fan of the Old Glory Club, and I don't think that's an exaggeration. Dawn Browning for 10 Australian. Thank you, Mrs. Browning, for a super sticker of an anthropomorphic Shiba Inu snuggling a large plushy heart. Well, we love you too, Dawn. Thank you.
I got to say one thing about not Don Browning, but Australia. There's a really awesome guy named Sid. Oh man, Sid's Ventures. That's his like handle. He's from Australia. He contacted me because he's like, "Hey, I love your podcast on bison. Can I come visit you when I visit the States?" So I spent. He was here for 2 months. I hung out with him 4 separate times, and I made the man fall in love with New Mexico. And so, Don, find your compatriot Sid's Ventures. I wish I knew his last name. Doesn't matter. But yeah, thank you, Don.
I mean, that's also kind of interesting. I imagine the topography of New Mexico isn't terribly different than some areas of Australia.
Yeah.
That's
And
true.
we got our
Yeah.
critters.
Yeah. Yep.
All right. So real quick before we wrap up, I asked this of every chapter. If you guys could give any piece of unsolicited advice to any of your brothers across this great nation of ours, what would it be?
So I'm just going to say, we talk a lot about there being a deficit of people willing to get involved in New Mexico and a lot of voids there. I think this kind of spans the gap across all chapters is we just need people to get involved at any and all levels to help preserve, our heritage and what we want to move forward with.
Yeah. Amen.
Amen.
All right. Amen to that, guys. I appreciate you joining us, regulators of the Rio Grande from the great state of New Mexico. Be sure to join us next week, where we will be sitting down with the Redwood Society from Northern California, another great chapter west of the Mississippi. Be sure to tune in every Thursday, 8 p.m. for Pony Express Radio, and American Spirits every Monday at the same time. Of course, these are all in the best time zone, the Eastern time zone. Make sure that you get your full content. Sorry, Mountain Bros. It's just not going to work out for you. All right, for the chapter